Hey everyone, today I'm going to be talking about my top 15 favorite fighters in the UFC right now. My number 15 would be Sean O'Malley. I just think he's a good personality. He streams on Twitch, which is cool to see him do that. He hasn't streamed in a while though. Um, but he has a cool fighting style, even though he did lose to Marab twice recently. I think he still has it in him, and I think he's a knockout artist. So that's why I put him in the number 15 spot. Moving on to number 14, Max Holloway. Um, Always willing to throw down with people, even if the other person isn't willing to throw down. Always points down, which is really cool to see. He has best knockout in UFC history, UFC 300. Um, and all of his fights are always entertaining. Um, Number 13. Oh, yeah. And I like seeing the behind the scenes he posts on his YouTube channel. That too. Um, Number 13, bit of a underground pick. I mentioned it in my last video. Mansour Abdul Malik. He last fought against Cody Brundage. Um, and it was a technical decision because he kneed him, I think, in the groin, which was I didn't really. It was kind of controversial because he got a few good shots off that. The first two rounds were boring, but he has so much power. Like when he hits someone, there's one fight he has where he finishes and he's on top. He's in a top position and he like postures up and he just starts hitting the guy and guy's out in like two punches. It's just crazy. I feel like he could be like a Tiba Gautier or Ilia Topuria. And Gautier and Abdul Malik are in the same division too. So I think middleweight has a couple good prospects. Um, Moving on to number 12. I know in my last video I said he is in my top 20, but I rethought it and I was like, I always go back to Marab fights if I want to watch like a dominant, entertaining fight. So, his performance against Umar was absolutely insane. He submitted Sean O'Malley for like his second finish in the UFC or something. I mean, he goes to decision, but it's not like they're boring decisions for the most part. 306 against Sean O'Malley was absolutely boring, but all of his fights are extremely dominant. Um, and especially as Umar, he was extremely entertaining. Even though he went to a decision, it was crazy to see Umar gas out like that, and he was celebrating, pointing up in the air, saying where the kicks go, and he couldn't even get taken down the last two rounds. Like sometimes, I know he got taken down once or twice. All right, 11th would be Dricus du Plessis, one of the best trash talkers already in UFC history. I mean, he made Sean Strickland and Israel Adesanya cry in the press conferences. Um, he fights so awkwardly, but he's a really likable person. He represents his country. Um, and he stays there. He trains there. He takes his belt back there. I mean, it's nice to see some fighter do that. And I think he's always entertaining. Almost every single one of his UFC fights are finishes, excluding the Sean Strickland ones and maybe another one that I'm not thinking of right now. But he's always entertaining to watch. And his trash talk, his press conferences are the best. All right, moving on to number 10, the top 10. 10 would be Tom Aspinall. Um, he finishes fights so quickly. He's recently crowned undisputed after John Jones retired. Um, he's just extremely entertaining. Shortest average fight time in the UFC or something like that. I mean, highest significant strikes per minute. He's just so active everywhere. He's so well rounded, and he's just such a likable guy because he's really grounded. Um, in everything he does, and then when he gets in the cage, he's just going for the finish immediately. Or I mean, I've seen him say he doesn't just go for the finish. It just the finish finds him. So um, I think it's cool to just see someone finish fights that quickly, especially a champion. And I'm excited for 321 against Cyril Gahn. I think that's it. Yeah, yeah, 321. All right, moving on to ninth place. I got Joshua Van in ninth. His last fight against Brandon Royval at UFC 317. 2 weeks notice. He's already fought like 4 times this year or something crazy like that. He's always entertaining. His takedown defense is really, really good, especially against the Japanese guy at I think it was 316, Ray Surya. I don't know. That was such a great performance, and then he went against I think it was like Bruno Silva or something like that. It was the last guy Manel Cap fought. Um, at no, that was 316. Yeah, and then Surya was 313, I think. But both of those were amazing performances. Even though the Surya fight was unanimous decision, but he's just so entertaining to watch. And the Royval fight was one of the best fights I've ever seen. So yeah. Moving on, number 8. Even though he had a recent loss against Kamaru Usman at UFC Atlanta, I think Joaquin Buckley is still in my top 10 favorite fighters. I mean, he just really represents, what he stands for. He's always entertaining, always throwing down. He has so much power. He throws everything in every punch. Um, he's just a likable person overall. That's his knockout against Wonder Boy was kind of sad to see at 307 because he was losing the first 2 rounds and then he just loads up and pummels Wonder Boy against the cage. That was sad to see. But the Colby Covington was absolutely beautiful, that performance. I mean, he battered Colby Covington. So, all right, number 7, Yuri Prochazka. I would put Khalil Roundtree somewhere in like probably like 16th or something. Um, but he just, I don't know. His last fight wasn't amazing. I was still rooting for him because it was against Jamal Hill and Roundtree's overall like a nice guy. But I'm rooting for Prohaska at 320 because he's just such I was gonna say grounded. Um, he's a very interesting guy. He represents what he stands for very well. He's very disciplined. Um, he's just such an interesting character and person. I think he definitely stays like true to himself, and he's definitely always entertaining, especially in the Jamal Hill fight. I mean, even when he's not winning, like against Alex Pereira twice, it was still entertaining. So yeah, Yuri Prohaska got 7. Speaking of Alex Pereira, number 6 is Alex Pereira. I think a while ago, like before 313, I had Alex Pereira in like third or something. And I kind of brought him down because there's a couple fighters who fought recently that are like above him. I mean, he's still his walkout is so cool. His his whole demeanor is just so much aura. He's so cool. Um, he fights. He's always entertaining, except for the Ankalaev fight. I mean, so much power, and he's a fan favorite for a reason. Um, Number 5, or I'm also hoping he brings it back against Ankalaev and knocks Ankalaev out at a 320. That's gonna be so awesome. Um, Number 5, the first of the fighting nerds on this list, Mauricio Rufy. His last knockout against Bobby Green was absolutely insane. I love to go back and watch his other fights, except the one against Manuel Souza because he got knocked out in that one. But he's always entertaining. I mean, the coaches say such like good things about him, like he's better than Anderson Silva, like he's the best Brazilian martial artist they've ever seen, stuff like that. and I'm on the hype train personally. I think he has a ton of potential, especially after that last knockout, 313 Bobby Green, which was insane. Um, I mean, he had that fight against James Long top at 309 after Charlie Campbell dropped out, and he had that crazy no look left hook. And he did tornado kicks and just crazy stuff in that fight. I mean, he always brings the entertainment. Um, and the Jamie Malarkey performance at 301, that's probably one of my favorite. That's probably my favorite fight to just go back and rewatch because it's short. He absolutely dominates. It's so entertaining because he had like the scissor takedown. Um, he was doing all crazy things. He had like the Philly shell type thing. He was shoulder rolling and he blocks like 20 punches that way. And he just broke Jamie Malarkey down, which I mean, I know Jamie Malarkey's not high level, but he's tough. And the way he did that was just really cool to see. All right, number four, second fighting nerd, Carlos Prates. Um, I feel like these could be switched out very soon if depending on like who wins, who loses. I'm not a fair weather fan. I don't like a I'm not I wouldn't call myself like a bandwagon. Um but if like a fighter like Alex Pereira last fight, if they're not entertaining and it's kind of just like I'm frustrated at the performance, I might bring them down a little bit just because I like the other fighters so much. But I'm not gonna drop if Alex Pereira loses against Ankalaev again. I'm not gonna drop him down to 15th, but I think he's gonna stay where he is. But yeah, these guys can switch out soon depending on who wins and who loses. But Prate's so much power. 305 knockout against Li Liang. I don't know how to pronounce it. Absolutely insane. He'd never been knocked out, but then he does that, and then shortly after does that to Neil Magny at the Apex, just grazes his head, and Neil Magny just sleeps. It was so hard. People were saying it was staged, which is crazy that Neil Magny flopped. But yeah, he's just so he's such a character, and he's so powerful somehow. It was sad to see against Ian Gary. He almost finished him in the fifth round, but um, I think he has it in to beat Jeff Neal 100% at 319. I think there's no chance for Jeff Neal. I think Carlos Prates is coming back better, and I think he's going to come back for the belt. I think he will be champion. Same with Mauricio Rufy. I mean, if Pereira loses to Ankalaev again, I think Prohaska fights Ankalaev. If Prohaska fights Ankalaev, Prohaska wins that too. Because I need to have confidence in these my favorite fighters to beat the fighters I don't like and any other fighters. I mean, I don't hate Jeff Neal, but all right, number three, Ilya Taporia. I mean, honestly, what is there not to like about Taporia? He's just so tough. I mean, Jai Herbert knockout is probably one of my favorite knockouts in the UFC. The comeback from the leg kick. I mean, that was crazy. One of my favorite fights to revisit. I revisit all his fights out of any fighter in the UFC. I think his fight against Damon Jackson, Jai Herbert. He chopped Damon Jackson down like a tree. His first fight against Yusuf Salal, he got that suplex in it, just like his brother at 312 against Colby Thickness. Um, he's so powerful and he's just so confident when he was making his walk against Charles Oliveira. From the moment Charles Oliveira walked out and his his family was crying, and then Taporia walked out and he was smiling with the one of my favorite walkouts, probably my favorite walkout ever in the UFC. His family were like super happy, and that's like it's over, and it's just it's so many awesome knockouts against so many high level people. Um, and he's gonna be the greatest of all time. I don't see him losing ever because the work he puts in. I think he's just gonna be the greatest of all time, undefeated. Um, three belt champion, maybe four. I don't know. That might be a stretch, but he's he's really good. Number two, the third fighting nerd on this list, John Silva or Gene Silva, whichever it is. Um, awesome not awesome submission ninja choke against Bryce Mitchell at 314. Um, what an amazing fight! I'd love to revisit that like almost every other day. Um, it's just such a great performance. Um, but yeah, he's the Milsic bagged Sarian fight February 22nd, Seattle this year was amazing knockout. He's always looks so happy. He's always entertaining. I mean, he showed he's completely well rounded in his last fight, so against Bryce Mitchell. So yeah, I mean, he's on a crazy streak right now. And my last fighter, my favorite fighter right now, probably ever, or yeah, ever. Kyle Ohio, the fourth fighting nerd in the UFC. Um, I think the reason that I like Kyle so much is his whole demeanor, right? He's confident. He's the leader, right? He's always talking about stuff. He's always willing to talk to like the interviews. He's always doing interviews and stuff like that. He speaks English. Um, but at UFC 301, that was my second pay per view because I started watching UFC April 2024. Um, UFC 300, and I don't think I've missed an event since that. But 301 was like when I was starting to really get into it, and his fight against Paul Craig was really good because he got a knockout against the cage, and then he put on the glasses, and it was crazy. And then his fight against Jared Cannonier last year in August, I think it was. He got that. It should have been a knockout victory because he knocked Jared Cannonier out in the last like 3 minutes of the fight, or I think it was like a minute 50 seconds or something like that. But um, yeah, and I really hope he either fights for the title and wins or beats Imavov. Either is fine, but that's gonna be so awesome to see him get the title. But yeah, thanks for watching.